Our interviews on Spectrum, Radio 1 FM 90.
Hello, a very warm welcome. This is Spectrum Radio 1. I'm your host Edmond Kizito. On Spectrum tonight, the quest for a liberalized pension sector. How do we achieve this goal without disharmony, and what exactly should this process take into account? For some time now, a debate has been raging, with stakeholders articulating the urgency for Uganda to liberalize its pension sector, fronting several points to support this demand. The officially recognized pension service provider in Uganda is the NSSF, or the National Social Security Fund, plus the pension and gratuity system managed by the Ministry of Public Service. As a result, there has been an outcry by those working in the informal sector because the government pension system does not cater for them. Currently, many Ugandans are benefiting from health insurance schemes provided by some insurance companies as well as private hospitals. Government says it supports the demands for liberalization, but is cautious that the process must be carefully handled to ensure that people are not cheated when many players come on board. Towards the end of the 8th Parliament, government tabled the Retirement Benefits Authority Bill to put in place an authority in anticipation of liberalization, and recently a committee to coordinate the liberalization process was established. Since then, trade unions and MPs representing workers have questioned the composition of this committee, but government says the committee will consult all stakeholders. It appears the campaign to have the pension sector liberalized has gathered momentum, with civil society organizations, trade unions and workers' representatives launching a new campaign, making several new demands. So tonight we'll look at these demands and also seek the workers of these people's opinions on how the liberalization of the pension sector should be handled, plus the benefits they envisage when the sector is fully liberalized. We also seek their opinion about the state of affairs at NSSF, and if at all they think NSSF should be preserved once liberalization eventually takes place. Our guests tonight, Mr. Usher Wilson Owere, Chairman General of the National Organization of Free Trade Unions. You're most welcome, Mr. Owere.
Thank you, and good evening, listeners. And I understand some people are also watching us.
They view us on the internet. A video is available on YouTube. We also joined by Mr. Robert Matuko, Deputy Secretary General of the Center for Free Trade Unions. That's COFTU. You're most welcome, Mr. Matuko.
Thank you very much, listeners. Good evening, and thank you for hosting us.
And Mr. Peter Werike, Secretary General of NOTU. NOTU is the National Organization of Trade Unions in Uganda. You're most welcome,
Good.
Mr. Werike.
Good. Thank you, listeners, and thank you for hosting us.
Mr. Owere, what is the workers' view on the pension sector liberalization?
The pensions sector liberalization is something that we wouldn't have problem with it, but the way it's being handled is a suspect. First of all, it is the liberalization is brought on a wrong rationale based on cabinet paper, and that cabinet paper states that there has been a public perception that NSSF has been having poor governance, and it has not performed well, and they were saying NSSF is also a monopoly, which actually it is contrary, because when you look at the NSSF, it's not a monopoly. In the NSSF Act, the Act allows minister responsible for NSSF to actually allow other players to come and also compete. Actually, I will give you an example of Makerere when they were looking for where to put their money. Actually, the minister responsible for pensions, NSSF, allowed NIC to come in play, and that shows you that it was allowed.
There's no monopoly.
There's no monopoly.
So there's fair competition.
There's fair competition, and
we don't need liberalization.
What we need is reform. We reform and make the acts of NSSF work. Other players can come on board and compete with NSSF. You know, in this country, we have about 11 million workers. Now, NSSF only holds about 450,000 to 500 maybe, because of late the number is going up. Now, when you look at the total workforce of 11 million, now you want to come and disorganize only this 450, and then you are also trying to tap on the pool. You know, NSSF is the only place where now in Uganda where it has this Ugandans hold a huge pool of money which is run by Ugandans themselves. Now you are opening up the safety of workers' money is not really catered for. Now the government is the guarantor of social security per se in the whole country. Now the government is trying to run away from its obligation. Now when there is a problem with workers' money today in NSSF, I will run to the government, and government can do what? I'll give you just an example of Nick, what happened. Nick, the government, the president had to intervene himself to bail out the Makerere workers. Now tell me, and what is happening now, which I want actually the workers out there to listen to me very, very carefully. We have about, let me call it 3 trillion. Now, that
is about 2.7, I think.
2.7. Roughly, you put it at that.
It was as of June.
As of
rising, so it could be right.
Yeah. So, for me, I would look at strengthening and improving the governance of NSSF. I, for one, with our colleagues here, all along have been talking about reform. And when we told the government, look, there has been a problem of interference by actually the same government, politically, they have intervened and told the government, look, instead of you appointing board from other people, now we want to be part of that governance. And since the last 3 years, I want you to agree with me that there has never been a governance issue in that place. Now, the government itself have a problem. You know, NSSF would be a better organized institution today. But when you look at the procurement process, which has been messing up the whole process, and even the scandals which has been in NSSF has not been the making of management in that place.
It comes from outside.
It comes from outside.
From
and it is just good process and good management that you can now work on governance, reform and improve that. For us, we don't have any problem with other people coming to in play. What we need is the safety of what? The money of workers. Another thing, a few days ago you saw some scandals, I think in MTN and so on. Now, when you talk about liberalizing, there is no, you know, when you look at KCCA, when it was KCC, when it has now been reformed, you see how it is now working better. URA. Are you getting my point? Civil Aviation Authority used to be just an authority. Now it has transformed itself to what? Now what we need in NSSF is to actually improve in the governance. And another thing, another angle I want to tell you that our money in NSSF, for example, these people are now proposing in the bill that, you know, for me, Owere, they will be giving me 30%.
We'll go into those details.
Yes.
We'll go into those. Mr. Owere, you used to advocate for this liberalization. Now you've gone volte-face. Why the turnaround?
I want to make it clear to the listeners that I'm not the advocate of liberalization.
You work as representative.
In the case from the word liberalism as a definition is wrong, because we're talking about a social function which is brought about through a tripartite of Convention 102 of Social Security and ILO. This Uganda has not ratified. NUMIC does not want to meet the minimum standards, which are 9 that provided under that regulation. Secondly, our colleagues in finance are saying there's an outcry through governance the reason why they want other players to come in. No, we're saying there's no problem of governance. Governance has been a problem of the government. The issue of alcohol, that's purely government. It's the minister who signed the procurement. Look at Timangaro. It's not Jama. Jama had it rough from Munyonyo when Surumo was saying sign. Look at his invested. It has made one of our good ministers to run away from this country. So why doesn't government come and tell out these servers that we are the problem? So the issue of governance is outright wrong. The issue of monopoly is also wrong. Why? The law of NSF, the current law of NSF, gives the minister the leeway to open up other players. An example, Nick has been exempted from contributing in NSSF because Makera has been mentioned. There is parliament there. Now, why are you crying to open up? Who has said that we cannot open up? Maybe putting it in Ministry of Finance is where the problem is. So I also want to add that even when you're in Ministry of Finance, listeners, workers listen properly. There is no department in Ministry of Finance in charge of NSSF. It's the relationship between the management of MD and the boardroom of NSSF. Look at this big risk.
It's a relationship, repeat that for us.
It's the relationship between the management of NSSF and the boardroom where the minister sits. That's where the decisions of NSSF are. We would have loved to have a commissioner maybe in charge of Social Security, placed in Ministry of Finance. Right now when you go to Ministry of Finance and you ask, who is in charge of NSSF? There's nobody. Nobody. So you can all see why we're saying there's a problem. So the issue of why we're talking about reform is open up. It increases the membership. Currently, government has tied us with 5 people minimum. But if you reform, it will arrive from 1 employee. This is what's happening on the region. Kenya, for example, people have been saving in NSF 200. Today, they are putting a legislation which is now mandatory to NSF 12%. So is Tanzania, so is Rwanda. So what is liberalization, which you don't understand? Maybe you define for us. That's what I don't know. That's what I want to contribute on this.
Mr. Matuko, talk to us about the arguments for liberalization. Why would it be a good thing, before we go into the form of it?
Why it would be a good thing?
Yes, to liberalize the pensions.
No, first of all, I do not believe in liberalization, so I cannot speak for it. Actually, what we are trying to do as workers' representatives, having understood that...
You're a socialist, a communist, you believe in state control.
Well, whatever it is, but what happens is that my role is to represent the interests of the workers. That's my mandate.
Go on.
And where we feel that the workers' interests are being injured, that's where we come in. At the moment now, it is very clear that the objectives for which liberalization was started were wrong, were premised on wrong facts, actually distorted facts. In our view, that these facts were distorted deliberately to bring about this liberalization. The moment you go back and address those facts, this liberalization will not even stand, because there will be no justification for liberalization.
Go on.
And we are saying, with this approach...
What were the arguments?
The arguments, first of all, they were saying that there is public perception as to the poor governance of NSSF. The public, according to the promoters of this bill, are unhappy with the way NSSF is being run. The other point is that there is monopoly, and my colleagues have ably articulated that there is no monopoly. What happened is that we have not had other people coming up to say we want to establish a scheme. If you want to establish a scheme, simply apply to the minister to get a license, and we get a scheme to run, to operate mandatory contributions. NSSF is not a monopoly. Actually, what NSSF does is simply to hold mandatory contribution, which any other organization that comes up, either offering better services or those similar to NSSF, can be allowed to run. Now, the mere fact that the objectives were wrong, the question of good government, of poor governance cannot stand. My colleagues have explained that. The question of monopoly cannot stand. The question of liberalization does not even arise, because already there are several other actors in the field and nobody is stopping them to continue functioning. Now, with all of these objects, which are wrong, therefore, the mere fact that you are talking about liberalization, you already...
It's a misnomer.
It's non-existent. So what we are saying, instead of continuing with this path, why don't we just simply undertake a reform by amending the NSSF Act to allow, for example, expand coverage in terms of who should be able to contribute to NSSF. Expand coverage in terms of the benefits that are supposed to be given to the people. And we see and reduce these rigidities that are being that are in place that hinder proper investment. If, for example, you want to undertake an investment, the process of procurement is prohibitive and does not allow NSSF to fairly compete for any investment that they would be able to undertake. And now, when things do not work out adequately well, then you say now, no, NSSF has not performed. But their hands, the management hands, are actually tied. The board is in place, but when you look at the process they go through, for example, PDA, the Attorney General or Solicitor General, there are no objection from the Minister, and these things take months for something to be procured. So we think the judgment that NSSF is not performing well is unfair. In fact, on the overall compared, you pick any institution here in Uganda, let's compare with NSSF, and we see who has performed well and who has not performed well. We still think that NSSF, if it's properly supported, it is really very, very safe for the workers. Workers, yes, people can complain, but you go to NSSF and you get your money. There is nobody who has gone to NSSF to get the money and they tell you the money is not there. You go there, you get your money.
But with Nick, they couldn't pay. Well, what's the problem?
Nick, of course, had a problem because Nick was not contributing to
the material benefits. Nick
the material benefits. So of course, we are being insured by Nick, and Nick, this is exactly what we are arguing. It's very risky to put your money into a small organization like Nick. If it collapses, supposing the president had not come in to help salvage the situation,
well, the government
we are going to cry for. And you see, with the funny thing with these organizations is that when they fail to pay, even if you take them to court, the money is not there. What will you do?
Squeezing blood out of a stone.
So the workers will remain there crying.
Mr. Well, what are the arguments against liberalization? Expand it for us.
One thing I want you to know that this nation needs a huge pool of long saving where you have money, because for workers really there is what I would say in all East African countries. Tanzania, for example, has a long-term huge pool money that is there for both infrastructure development and also investment, and also giving benefits to its members. Now what they do, they invest the money, they even borrow it out even to the government. For example, I will give you an example. In Tanzania, they have built police stations, other university, bridges. Out of this, now the government borrows this money and then they take it back in kind of what? Investment. And the money, when time comes for any member, he needs money, they easily access the money. What we need now from NSSF is to improve on benefits, whereby you get more benefits. For young people who are joining now, actually NSF is the richest in terms of land, but because of this PPDA, where my brother has mentioned, they are unable to invest. Look at the tower which is coming up.
Pensions Tower, the only building in this country.
You know, the process is so long that by the time they approve the process, the price has doubled. There is a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot.
So talking about the Pensions Tower,
exactly,
the 3-tower complex, exactly, the only building of its kind in
Uganda.
Yeah.
Now, such investment. Now, when you go to areas like the land we have, I would want to see a young man, instead of going to the bank, the NSSF can just call you and say, Mr. Owere, we have houses, you are our member. Instead of going to the bank, why don't you occupy that and you make some arrangement? Yes. These are some of the benefits we would like to see being fronted. We don't want to see Because now what is happening, a lot of our people are being duped.
Okay, we'll get into those details. Listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, the quest for a liberalized pension sector. How do we achieve this goal without disharmony? And what exactly should this process take into account? We're going for a break. We'll be back. And then you'll be able to contribute.
As we celebrate 50 special years, Nile Special invites you to toast to our great land. Nile Special, the rich, rewarding taste from the source. You've earned it.
When I sip from the Nile. Not for sale to persons under 18.
Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics are conducting a survey on the real estate sector to collect data on price of land and property. The data collected will help policymakers better understand the economy and business people to plan for their investments. The monthly survey, which will be conducted in Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, and Entebbe, will collect information on purchase and sale of land, residential houses, and rent of commercial premises for business and industrial purposes. The survey data will be published by Bank of Uganda and the Uganda Bureau of Statistics on a quarterly basis and will be available to the public at no cost. Interviewers with clear identification will visit real estate agents, property owners, and mortgage lenders to complete survey forms. Bank of Uganda assures the public that the information will be kept confidential, only published in aggregate forms, and will not be used for tax purposes. Bank of Uganda appeals to the public to cooperate fully with the interviewers.
Everybody talking like this in the car, this in the bar. Doesn't even matter wherever you are. With overload, what you really don't know is money. You get a little bit more.
A little longer. Send text to all your loved ones and laugh a little longer.
Get 15% extra airtime guaranteed every time you load with MTN. Simply dial *145#. Get talking all day up to midnight with MTN Overload.
MTN, everywhere you go.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back on Spectrum. Tonight, the quest for a liberalized pensions sector. How do we achieve this goal without disharmony, and what exactly should this process take into account? Our guest tonight, Mr. Wilson Owere, Chairman General of the National Organization of Free Trade Unions, that's NOFTU.
National Free Trade
Unions, because that's how I knew it before, not Free Trade Unions. We also have Mr. Robert Matuko, Deputy Secretary General of the Center for Free Trade Unions, that's
Free Trade Unions.
COFTU.
Yeah, that's right.
And Mr. Peter Owere Hayes, NOFTU Secretary. These are unique titles. Secretary General of NOFTU, the National Organization for Trade Unions.
Special titles for workers.
In Uganda, you also have Treasurer Generals and other people. Mr. Owere, how far this liberalization process gone?
No, at the stage, the bill is already in Parliament. Now, the task force was formed where, actually, through struggle, we were not even included in the task force. But after fights here and there, I think there was order from the Prime Minister and the other that we must be included. That's when the Minister of Finance invited us. We were included, but we found when the task force was already ahead, and even our presence in the task force, you know, the task force people are, especially the chairperson, is so arrogant that he thinks he has been given authority from heaven. And he thinks we cannot reverse anything that was.
What's his name?
He's Bekabie, I think. Moses Bekabie. So he thinks he's too big that we cannot change anything that. Now for him, he wants us to pass that, the draft the way it is. We have tried our level best to bring our argument on a table, but I'm telling
like you say, feel like someone walked from heaven and spoke to him.
Exactly.
Okay, Mr. Owere, is Uganda's insurance industry really ready to take up the liberalized market, pensions market?
Of course, the industry is not ready to do that, given the experience which I've told you about Nick. That
what happened with Nick specifically?
Nick is one of the examples which lost the money for workers of Makerere. If we didn't have a good president like His Excellency Museveni, who can force taxpayers' money to compensate Makerere painfully, and he leaves this guy inside here. Instead of getting hold of these guys who have taken people's money, he goes and punishes the taxpayer twice.
How much money was involved? Give us a figure there.
27 billion.
7 billion shillings?
27 billion.
27. Government gave 27
how many
billion.
hospitals? About 3 or 4. Which Nick guys have lost, and they're still
Let's get the clarity.
around.
Makerere University saved its money with Nick, just like it's being proposed now.
Exactly.
Nick lost the money.
Yes.
And because government did not want the people to suffer at Makerere, they compensated on behalf of Nick.
Yes. Exactly. Using taxpayers' money. And leave these people of Nick just at free. So this is what I was saying, that where government has not provided guarantee, how do we know that these firms are ready to do that? It's the reason we're saying what we are doing longing for is to have a regulator. Let the regulator come in place. There are already instruments which are in NSSF Act that allows the minister to allow other players to come in place, and things will go on. So this is what we're saying.
Mr. Matuko, what are the pitfalls of a liberalized sector? When they open up to other players, split NSSF, take out the money?
There are several. One of the things that much as the current draft seems to suggest that workers shall have the freedom to choose where to save their money. The danger in that is that these workers are employed. The employers have interest in the savings. And therefore the employers will try as much as possible to influence the workers to go into schemes of their own interest, not those that the workers are interested in. So it's likely that workers will be driven into going into schemes where they don't want.
You mean if a large employer could decide to set up their own scheme?
Yeah, they don't even express the status so that there are occupational schemes. There are going to be schemes which are occupational. So Radio 1 can say now we have set up a scheme and we have a right to access mandatory contributions. And now, if, for example, a scheme has been established and your boss tells you now we're going to this scheme, will you be able to refuse?
According to the
law, has interest. They are the workers, much as they say workers shall have the freedom, but actually in reality that will not be the case.
And what are the pitfalls there?
Then of course what happens is that there is a likelihood that workers are going to go into schemes on a false understanding that they are going to get better benefits, when actually the intention of the people who are starting these schemes is not to provide social security but to make profit. And for us, we are saying now, if you are making profit, profit must come as secondary to help the worker earn more money, but not as a driving factor for you to be able to establish a scheme. That would be wrong.
Paint us in the scenarios. NSSF is the sector is liberalized.
Yes.
NSSF has to compete with about 20 other players.
Yes.
Some of them are foreign, some of them are local. What's the scenario?
What is going to happen right now? You see this NSSF, out of the 100% savings, 80% of the money there belongs to 20% of the contributors.
Yeah, 20-80%.
Yeah. So what is going to happen here is that the people who are pushing this bill want to target the 80% of the money through the 20% of the people. And if you take that away, NSSF has collapsed.
And what's wrong with that?
And what happens
to the money when it goes to
the likelihood there is going to be capital flight.
What do you mean capital flight? Explain
money will be removed from here to go and be invested outside Uganda,
which NSSF is not doing.
Leave the basic, which NSSF can't do, because we ourselves are there. We are monitoring.
It's owned by the government,
and they have never failed.
Providing a guarantee. So to shift such money, it is very difficult.
Talk to us about potential mismanagement and capital flight. What exactly would it be like?
Actually, I'll give you an example. Many of these, there's UTL or MTN, Weridi and so on.
Telecom companies.
They were liberalized. Now, do you know how much money they take outside? Do we still have a control of that money? That's why I was telling you that we need a long-term, huge investment pool of money here. our money is at risk. The way, actually, if we don't wake up now, like I was telling you, 20% of the people who are saving with NSSF
Contribute 80%.
contribute 80%. And I'm telling you, these are the people who are now on standby. And when I tell you about this task force, who are there? Most of them are insurance people.
Insurance company.
People have positioned themselves.
Finance.
Actually, they are just waiting for the bill to pass, so that you see the chaos and where the money will go. And once our money is taken out of this country, the economy of this country
It will collapse.
It will collapse. And
You think it will collapse?
for me,
You think it will collapse?
it's seriously, because I'm telling you, these are people who have positioned themselves
They are waiting.
and they are waiting, and nobody.
They have already established schemes.
They have already established a scheme.
The cow to
Which they are just waiting for, and that's why they are pushing very, very hard.
outside of the slaughterhouse of NSSF.
Exactly. So, as we talk now, NSSF, even if tomorrow,
So you're saying with NSSF our money is safe because it's within
they
government
have
hands?
never
The
failed.
problem was government interfering with NSSF.
Exactly.
If NSSF is managed properly, our money is safe.
It's safe.
And
They
you're
have
saying,
never even failed to pay anybody.
and you're saying that we have had a foretaste of liberalization in NIC. Makere money was sent to NIC, they couldn't pay, and government had to.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It has been
So you have 10 NICs, that is $270 billion.
Exactly.
270 billion.
Exactly.
There's this, well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, the quest for a liberalized pension sector. We expect to host government officials who are handling the liberalization process this week. They should be able to come and give us their own arguments with regard to this. Mr. Owere, talk to us about this draft. What exactly is in it, and what don't you like about it?
You know, the draft, as I stated, first of all, it is on a wrong rational assumption on the cabinet paper, which actually was presented, and giving a lot of negativity that NSSF has a problem. Now, for me, for us, we are saying if we have a long-term funding for national infrastructure development, this can really be good for this country. There's also, we can also provide a long-term benchmark, and that is in terms of pricing for financial market. That's when we were talking of capital flight. If you take away the money, then our market here, NSSF now actually is one of the players in this area.
They stabilize the economy. They buy treasury bills and bonds.
Exactly.
The largest buyer. Someone told me some time back in NSSF, if we withdraw our money from some of these banks, some of them would collapse.
Exactly. Now, they also provide.
So you think there could be a spiraling effect on the banks? The money is siphoned out of NSSF, it goes to the other players, they take it abroad.
Yeah,
some of the banks would close.
They also guarantee
Capitalize.
that is it. So we have a very, very big problem. We are not here. For me, I wouldn't have problem with the liberalization, but we have gone deep inside and found that even the people, let me give you another scenario, even the people actually who are chairing this so-called task force, I'm sorry to mention it, these are not workers of Ministry of Finance.
Where are they coming from?
They're just actually
Consultants.
or World Bank and so on.
What's wrong with that? They are
No, they are, they are positioned
Macroeconomic policies that are
against the
Go on.
Yeah, because you see what is happening is that what the chairperson of the task force is doing is that they have already come with a draft. Where this old draft came from, nobody knows, but the draft is there. And they are trying to use, this is actually part of the macroeconomic policies that are being introduced by World Bank to coerce government, by the way, because World Bank is not happy to have such a huge pool of resources here. Because they would want you, every time you need money, go and borrow from them. But what will happen here now is that you have money, government can easily go and borrow money there to do a lot of work. And that one is not in the interest of World Bank. So if this money can be scattered to be under the control of different schemes, not to be under one control where government can have access, it is in the interest of World Bank. But now what happened is that these agents of World Bank, like now the chairperson of the committee on the task force, are trying to do everything possible. In fact, they prepared a cabinet paper for cabinet to consider, but the cabinet paper was misleading. Even the advice they are giving His Excellency the President is actually distorted, so that the President can agree to actually adopt these policies, which actually even going to dupe his own government. This is for sure. And we are saying no. That's why even when they were forming the task force, they made sure workers are excluded, because they know for us we are not agree with this nonsense. This is the
task force,
which is redrafting this.
It omits workers.
Yet it omitted workers. It had to take us
because you will oppose them.
Yeah, it had to take us a fight and several protests to allow us on the task force. But even when we go on the task force, even to change a comma in that draft,
you have to pray very hard.
They even tell you, no, we forward this to the one.
Exactly. Like I would add on that draft that the draft actually talks about NSSF and the pension scheme. But when we went to talk about the truth, say, okay, we've agreed on some of these records. Say, no, we've now removed pensions. It's gone to public service. But in the draft, they have not removed. What does that mean?
This is Spectrum Radio 1. You can call in now. Our number 041-4348-111, 031-226-0390, 031-226-1390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Your views on liberalizing this pension sector. Will it put our entire financial sector at risk? Spectrum, hello? Hello?
Edmond.
Yes, sir, your name?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You make my name in Bunga here. A very
we have to substantiate on that claim, the psychophancy and how it fits into this discussion. If you can call back, we'd like to hear some clarification on that. Spectrum, hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
Yes, how are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, my name is Kamil.
Yes, Mr. Kamil. Spectrum, hello?
Good evening, Edmond.
Good evening, your name?
I'm Edmond from Uganda.
No, I think he made his point. I think he made his point, even though his line got cut. We did cut him off from his Spectrum, hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
This is David.
Yes, David?
Yeah.
Spectrum, hello?
Hello.
Yes, madam. Your name? Good evening, your name?
My name is Sarah Mdenze.
Yes, Sarah. Spectrum, hello.
Hello,
Yes, sir. Your name?
this is Martin.
Martin, yes. Okay, our final caller. Spectrum, hello. Good evening, your name? Will. Yeah, let's hear from Mr. Matuko.
Yeah, thank you very much, callers, for the wonderful views and ideas that you've really given. Let me start with the last one. It is not that we are blaming PPDA, because honestly PPDA is doing a lot of other things that are helping Ugandans in ensuring that there is proper accountability and that the people who are making businesses on behalf of government do not cause losses. But what we are saying is that we are now having a regulator. There is a law that puts in place a regulator under which regulator has got a mandate to regulate and supervise the activities of the pension schemes in Uganda. It therefore will not be useful to to have the regulator, you have the board, and then you have PPDA, then you have no objection from the minister, and then you have approval from the Solicitor General. Honestly speaking, this process alone, if it is to be followed in that manner, it will take you close to a year or more to have an investment approved for implementation. And I think that is very unfair to NSSF, much as we would want to ensure that PPDA does its work. The colleague from Ntinda is Martin, made a comment saying that how were the members of the task force appointed? Of course, members of the task force are honestly the people who drafted this bill were selected from Ministry of Finance, and are those whom they felt would be able to endorse the draft
rubber stamp.
Made, rubber stamp. And it was on that ground that we rejected that task force. Actually, for us, we demanded for disbandment of that task force to reconstitute the task force on a tripartite basis, where we have the employers represented on that task force through their organizations, recognized organizations, workers represented on the task force through their organizations, and government. But being led by the Ministry of Labor, because the Ministry of Labor understands the social functions far much more than the Ministry of Finance. Ministry of Finance is mainly looking at investment. They are not bothered whether there is social protection or what, that is not their function.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Owere, give us your own response. What are raft of questions?
Yes, I'll pick from David. who was talking about being in civil service, how they join. Again, as we have been saying, that there's a law, the Constitution of Uganda, Section 29 and 40, provides for unionization of all Ugandans. And again, we have got a law for specifically civil servants. This is the joint negotiation machinery, which allows public service to join, which again, through a hard struggle, we have been able just to sign these agreements for people now to join the union. So, workers shouldn't be defiant. It's these defiant workers who are propagating for bad things. That's why I say, now that you know that the law, the Constitution of Uganda is superior, just join the union. And on the issue of one of the colleagues from Muntinda said that where's the money? Again, this will talk about the losing money out. You have seen $1 billion. You want it just to be taken away in the hands of a few people. And are you happy when the government gets taxpayers' money, which would have others bought in drugs and compensate the people of Makere who have done that? I mean, all these are the pains which we are talking about. I want to add on what Sarah said, that yes, Kenya, you have seen. US, we are all struggling what US is doing. This is why you see the people visiting us. All these are the models. Why are they going back? Why should we cover from IMF think that those people who are going back are doing bad? So therefore we should ban it the way.
All right. Mr. Owere.
Yeah, first of all, Jimmy was talking about sacrificing. But I want to assure Jimmy that as far as I'm concerned, I'm a workers' representative, and I've never danced to any tune of anybody except the tune of the workers. And I will never let down the workers. Because the life of people, including myself, actually, I want to inform Jimmy that in NSS alone, I have over 70 million. So it's not by mistake that I'm the workers. Now, another issue is, I agree with Sarah when says the 15% should be left. If at all they are talking of liberalizing, then this other percent, maybe 5%, can go to other players.
Yes.
Now, why should you now temper with the,
what will happen if they do it? Give us a graphic picture.
I'm saying NSSF is the only organization with institution that can spread all over the country.
You're saying it's the only place to protect the money?
Yes.
Give it to private operators. The next scenario will come in where government has to get taxpayers 27 billion shillings.
Exactly.
There are 10 players, that's 270 billion.
Edmond, I'll tell you, go to Karamoja. How many people will save with NSSF with Karamoja? And which unique person, which private investor will sit in Karamoja?
You won't find them there.
Right, you
so these guys are scrambling for the money which is already made for them. They just now want to get the money without even spending a coin.
Let them go to other sectors.
Now, the last one, I'm telling the workers that the move is on, and I'm calling upon His Excellency the President to intervene immediately before when people call me, because I know if the President intervenes today, things will change. But if it doesn't change, we are not ready to allow anybody play with our savings.
We have to go. Thank you very much indeed. Our dear guest, Mr. Peter Owere, NOTU Secretary General, thank you for coming to Spectrum. You want to say something before we go?
Yes, I want to appeal to workers and all Ugandans that support the reforms which you are getting for is the way to go. Otherwise, you are going to lose out all in this shaky economy at this moment.
Mr. Wilson Owere, Chairman General of NOTU, thank you for coming to Spectrum. Mr. Robert Matuko, Deputy SG of the COF2, that's the
Organization of Free Trade Unions,
COF2. Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond, Kizito Spectrum. We'll be back tomorrow. Right now, you can hear the news in English. Do stay tuned.
Hello, Uganda. This is